People who have been bullied in their childhood, how did that affect your life? Low self-esteem. Can't trust anyone with anything. If I get complimented, I doubt it, and I actively think they're just doing it to laugh at me, and those are just a few. I used to be that way, but thankfully I met someone who helped me. Apparently, I had actually done some of that damage myself. I was so afraid of having an ego, or being narcissistic, that I intentionally made myself think I was worthless. I did still do this. So afraid of being blinded by ego or narcissism, and not realize that people don't like me, that I automatically assume people don't like me, and pretend to be friends with me. So afraid of being a narcissist, that I destroyed my own self-confidence entirely. People say if you are self-aware enough to be afraid of being a narcissist, you won't ever actually be one. BC narcissists never believe they are narcissists. So fine. I often wonder how my life would have turned out if all those things hadn't happened. When I go to a party, gathering, meet new people, I always worry that no one will talk to me, or even worse, make fun of me, or be otherwise cruel. I'm extra careful with what I say and how I say it, because my words used to be twisted constantly. I don't usually say outright what I think, because I've learned that my opinion doesn't matter, and that I'll be mocked for it. The result is often seen as me being very diplomatic, but it is just me being extra careful. I have learned to become Teflon so nothing sticks to me. People used to put blame of me for all sorts of things, used to mock me for what I said, everything. I can recount entire communications to put stuff into context, because it was always bon Shenva said, and then it sounded bad. On top of that, I also have some hang-ups when it comes to my body. I find it hard to believe that my partner finds me attractive, because people used to mock me for my looks as well. Basically, my entire being was torn to shreds as a child. I don't make friends easily. I'm not necessarily shy, but I don't trust people. Oh yes, diplomatic. I have been described this way before. Really, sometimes I am just trying to not rock the boat. In my 40s now, considered suicide, made me into a hateful bitter cynic, still have desires to harm those that hurt me, late in life virginity, let me clarify, a lack of relationships and intimacy which results in, as a result from bullying, anxiety, rage and trust issues, permanent self-esteem damage and a warped view of the world. I see the worst in people, assume everyone wants to hurt me, I can't even take a compliment because of all this. Something in my head tells me the compliment is fake or they are bidding for vulnerability. I hate it. Did someone you like or respected ever give you a compliment that made you feel really good, and then you say thanks, and then they said just kidding? That happened to me more than a few times, so I have this issue taking compliments as well. Duck. Oh man. People, family would give me a compliment to my face that seemed sincere and made me feel good. Then I'd hear them trash me behind my back. I don't believe anything nice people say about me, and if I do believe they're sincere, I just don't care. It doesn't affect me, or I think they're misguided and wrong. I am so mad. I know this is BS, but I can't figure out how to move past it. I always assume the default feeling towards me is dislike. I am doing good now, have friends and everything, but when I meet someone new I always think they won't like me, so it puts a greater distance to go from being strangers to being friendly. I always felt this too. It made socializing really hard because I was always nervous and defensive around everyone. I just assumed that if people commented on my work it was because they were criticizing it or making fun. Took a while to realize that what I was doing, it had become a habit from high school that continued without me realizing it, and then longer still to combat it. Same. Some people think I am mean because I anticipated this so much that I started to dislike new people very quickly as a way to cope. I am glad you found a way to stop it. It is still a work in progress for me, but it gives me hope. At 54, I live alone, as I have always lived alone. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. Well, I would have preferred sticks and stones. They leave evidence, and even major bone fractures will heal in around 6 weeks. Words have a way of sinking into and warping your psyche, corrupting your soul into a self-loathing cesspit of misery forever. Plus, they leave no evidence behind and make the one who suffered the abuse look like a crazy, useless liar, which doesn't help matters, since the sticks and stones mantra becomes an additional and exquisite form of torture from the very people who should be protecting you the most. I think it is. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can break hearts. And remember, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words do permanent damage. Barry Champlain Talk Radio, 1988, especially when you are a child. Makes me think that they bullied me for a reason. The reason could be something like you seemed like an easy target. It still says more about the bully than you. There is no good reason to bully someone. There is nothing wrong with you. I mean, yeah, but try explaining that to my trust issues. I understand that for sure. I was bullied most of the way in junior high and high school. I was different, and I believed in following the rules and the system would help me. How ducking wrong I was. It only made me an easy target. I was a pretty broken kid through those times. I had my hometown, where I came from, and that hick-filled shithole I went to school in. Where I grew up, I felt free and normal. When I went back for the school year, it was 9 months of hell. I left that small town I went to school in and went to college in a city in the Midwest. I was distrustful of people when I went to college at first. I figured I had to be careful of students who would abuse me. I took up martial arts in case I had to start fighting. I started college with the high school mentality, trying to figure out the social structure and who I should hang with. What things should I avoid? Then the funniest thing happened. I wasn't different in the city. I was a nobody. No one gave a shit what I did. People accepted me for who I was. The high school social structure didn't matter anymore. People in the same class tended to hang out so we could help each other. It took me a few years to trust people again. Now over 20 years out of high school, there isn't a ton of impact in my life, except nowadays I realize that the only person I can rely on to stand up for me is me. Schools have a lot of responsibility for people's misery along with parents' caregivers, and neither want to accept any. That's a tough journey, but glad you made it out that. Small towns are really the ducking worst for crab bucket mentality. Only gave me long-lasting permanent psychological damage, but whatever. Apparently I walk kinda funny if you pay close enough attention. You know what happens when the whole school finds out and keeps telling you to walk normally. You become so paranoid that literally anywhere you go in public you always assume people are watching the way you walk and making fun of you. Thus, I don't go places. Yup, people are a-holes. I am sorry you dealt with that. People don't realize just how damaging this shit can really be. I was viciously bullied in high school for my weight and looks. I'm in my mid-30s now and have struggled with severe social anxiety and low self-esteem all my life. I still tacitly assume that all people being friendly to me are just being nice because they pity me, and that nothing I do could ever be helpful or beneficial to anyone. I know rationally it's not true, but the feeling remains. I was endlessly mocked for anything and everything I showed any interest in high school. So to this day I still keep all my hobbies and interests to myself. It significantly held me back in my relationships and my career, to the point where I finally bit the bullet and booked in to see a therapist about 6 months ago, 20 years after the bullying had ended. I'm certain that my bullies are leading perfectly normal lives and have no idea at all how they affected me. They peaked in high school. I made the mistake of looking up the guy who gave me a concussion in middle school, then laughed at me while I crawled around on the ground trying to pick up my books and stand back up. He is wildly successful, in excellent physical shape, and seems to be living his best life. I think his torment of me had no negative impact on his life whatsoever. He was even homecoming king. Duck that guy forever. The cliche that social media only presents the edited highlights of someone's life probably applies here, and likely applies especially strongly with this kind of person. Which is not to say that they are not successful. Bad people can succeed not only through good fortune, but also precisely because they are bad, just that whatever impression you had of them from social media is an impression they gave diligent thought to creating, with all the less convenient facts glossed over. Most obviously, when I'm in public and I hear a group of people laugh, There is a part of me that always thinks they are laughing at me. IK lore that this is rarely, if ever, the case, but that knowledge doesn't silence that small voice. Oh crap, I do this too. I actually mentioned it to a coworker without thinking about it once, and she was like, your internal monologue is a real bitch. I sent it, and I laughed about that. But yeah, she is probably right. Laughing my butt off. It made me distrust people. It made me suicidal. It made me dislike myself. If I had not met my wife, I would most certainly be dead by now. Now, 30 years after the bullying stopped, I kind of get it, why I was targeted. I suspect I am on the spectrum a bit. My personality seems to be off-putting to people. I have acquaintances and coworkers who are mostly nice to me, but I never get invited to anything unless I am lumped in with the group. I've gotten to the point, if someone makes a joke at my expense more than once, they are basically dead to me. Maybe I need to lighten up with that, but it is hard to overcome what seems like an ingrained defense mechanism. Bullying sucks. I think that with a lot of people who get bullied a lot are so done with other people's shit that whenever someone who is just teasing them does something, the person just snaps, and it gets to be a kind of isolating effect, because although you've just been ridiculed a lot, that person just thinks you mean. Hope you work it out. I silently cry nearly every night over the life I could have had I been more normal and acceptable. I got shy as duck and developed trust issues, but I overcame most of the trust issues and I'm not that shy anymore. And then you question anyone's sincerity in adulthood. I was bullied in school and also basically at home. Verbal abuse, very rarely physical. Lines start with the pros. Made me more resilient, independent. I'm comfortable making my own choices and having people not like me, which not everyone is cool with. I am female and I feel like a lot of other women really need to feel liked. This was due to hitting some point in childhood where I was basically like, well F it, if no one or figures to whom I was looking for approval is ever going to just approve or me or like me, no matter what I do, I should just do what I want and think is right and forget the rest. I have, like, psychic level abilities of reading the room, interpreting the emotions behind what other people are doing. It was a survival skill when I was a kid and is just an unconscious thing that I do. In fact, it took years as an adult to realize that everyone else maybe doesn't. Can't just do this. The hypervigilance and extreme independence I feel mean I come off as super on top of stuff. Competent. See cons for the bad side of this. The cons: I have anxiety. I flinch or act in an exaggerated way to stimuli. I am hyper alert, hypervigilant. This usually seems like a pro, but it means using a ton of mental energy and causes lots of stress, which I basically have never lived without, so I don't know the difference. Except for the one time my doctor made me take anxiety meds, which TBH was amazing. I have never been so relaxed in my life, and probably most people just feel that way all the time. The extreme sense of I can count on anyone else to be there for me hasn't stopped me making friends, but I still feel lonely despite having friends. If I really need help and someone lets me down, instead of talking about it with them, I cut them off. They hurt me once. Can't trust them ever again, which I think is not normal healthy, but it feels so vulnerable to be like, hey, you hurt my feelings, because an unconscious part of me expects them to be like, yeah, I did, you loser, and I'll do it again at every opportunity. Since that was basically all I knew for a long time as a child. I love that you included positives and I agree with you. I am also extremely independent, and I think I have high egg, as in, I can tell when people are uncomfortable, bored, etc. in a conversation or situation. Honestly, I grew up in a situation with one sibling getting treated way differently, and it was me getting treated crappily, and I have given this a lot of thought. I would not want to switch places with my sibling. She got a lot of help and support and praise, and ended up kind of fragile. I got told I was a crappy person all the time, and did not get the same financial or emotional support. The emotional part sucked. I can't lie. Not trying to be all rosy about this, but it didn't cripple me. And now I have amazing coping skills, have navigated some awful things in adult life, and came out on top. I can't imagine what my sibling would do in my same position, or how she would be able to cope. It sucked to go through, but I am really happy about how I turned out. So honestly, I guess I am grateful. Doesn't he mean I would want to be friends with old bullies or anything? I have zero interest in catching up. I assume they grew up to be real losers and I am not all lovey with my parents either. But even in that case, their crappy behavior was all about them and their problems, not about me and who I am. I don't have to let it stick to me now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.